Come back together. Let's see how we're doing here. Here we go. And was that enough time?
Yeah.
Yeah, you okay, Natasha? Was that enough time?
Yeah, I've got a little bit more left to read, but that's fine. I can read it later.
Okay. All right. You're able to proceed with what you've done?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. We'll just kind of go in order, and I'll go ahead and click on it so that it's visible. Lisa, just if you want to share a couple highlights, or if there's something in particular you want me to move to or click on, just let me know.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. And we froze again. Hold on. Need me to go.
Nowhere at the moment. You can go down to simple things teachers can do. There's a
Perfect.
It's bolded.
Yep.
But they're saying, so one of the things you can do is say like, okay, so when you start thinking this way, if you had a friend who was thinking that way, how would you support that friend? And they can often come up with so many different ways that they're able to support their friend, and they don't even think about, oh wait, I can actually apply those things to myself. And so really kind of helping them see like, oh, you would suggest to do these things. Well, why don't you try doing those things yourself, and really helping them understand that they already know a lot of strategies to help themselves get through some of these negative self-talk cycles. And also just kind of encouraging them still to have positive behaviors. So if they're worried and anxious about the pandemic, just being like, okay, well, here are things we can do, you know, that you can control, like washing our hands still, and helping to emphasize those little things that you might not think of to do that you can still contribute and help lessen the anxiety. Or how about you don't sit in front of the news all day? And that's something, you know, I have to do too, is I'm like, I'm not looking at the news like at all today. I just can't do it again. And knowing like, oh, I would suggest that to a friend, like stop reading the news.
Yeah.
We need to do that for ourselves. So trying to help instruct our students like, okay, you know the things to do. Let's brainstorm some of those.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Yeah.
And then is there anything else from later that you wanted to draw out? No, there wasn't much else.
Yes, I got the nice short one. I was happy with what you assigned to me.
All right. All right. I'll take the next one. So the next one is from an organization called CASEL, which is California Social Emotional Learning. I should find out their full acronym. It's probably Alliance, or, you know, there's probably something else there. This resource. Yes. So this resource, when you click on it, and you have the slide deck, so don't forget to save it to your Google Drive so that you always have it, is nice in a couple ways. So here's how it's organized. At the top, it's going to share what they see as the 5 competencies for strong social emotional health. Then it's going to give a few samples of activities for each of those 5 competencies. And then it ends with just a very short section on why it's important to explicitly teach those social emotional competencies. So the 5 competencies are self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, social awareness, and relationship skills. And, you know, they talk about, it could be reading books about diversity, you know, for younger grades and so on, or holding a class service project. Both of those things have aspects or characteristics that would fit into developing some of these competencies. So they have, this site has 15 specific ideas organized by competency. So whether it's mindfulness meditation or reflective writing, and as I was reading it, I found myself thinking, which ones of these could be done in our target language or languages, right, that I could really easily pull in potentially. Emotional vocabulary lists. And they do give a suggestion for older grades to give more kind of complex and precise emotional vocabulary words. Then for self-management, the grounding techniques, and it gives like 5 of them. Well, I saw that and I went, this is interesting, because even at a novice level of language, our learners can do a couple of these. Name 5 different things you see around the room. So to just get them out of whatever issue has kind of hijacked their amygdalas for the moment, by giving them a short focused task to ground them and just get them able to focus on something else for a little bit, and to reorient them into the present so that they're not still trying to work their way through some issue or event or something that's causing them some kind of stress or anxiety. So name some things you can see around the room. Obviously you could listen to music for a minute, hold an object and focus on its color or texture. And then depending on the level of the class, they could share some of that information, what they're holding. The class could try to figure out what it is. If they only share descriptive characteristics, for example, take 10 deep breaths, counting each one. And then eat a piece of candy and choose 3 words that describe its taste. But I remember as I was reading these thinking, actually there are some of these kinds of things, and we could probably brainstorm others that would be language practice tasks, but also serve that additional goal of bringing everyone back around to the present and to what we're doing together in this space right now. Self-management party games that we probably wouldn't be able to do as easily during distance learning, but I have done some versions of these. Like I've done target language versions of children's games with my students and taught them the same games that children in France and other French-speaking countries learn, so that they get a little taste of those experiences and what it would have been like to grow up there. And it turns out that when we have older students, but occasionally we do have students who are still working through regulating their emotions and so on for a variety of reasons, and also who are still learning to correctly interpret the emotions and responses of others. So there can still be some benefit to age-appropriate games, not just for the linguistic and academic content. And then it gives several more that go through, again, all of those 5 competencies of things that we can do. I know one that is happening a lot in our district is listening circles. So we've been doing a lot of those with students and other stakeholders. They are really, really important in terms of helping us all better understand each other, our stories, our perspectives, our narratives, and how those are coming into play and shaping the experiences that we have. And then at the end, like I said, they talked a little bit about why. And we're starting to see in research a correlation between high social emotional wellness and academic achievement, as well as self-esteem. And I think one of the ones that I see, in addition to all these, one of the ones that really struck me the most was viewing the teachers and classmates positively, because we know as language teachers, we're not just helping them view their classmates positively, but we're giving them the strength and aptitude and skills to view people from many different cultural groups who have different backgrounds, different experiences that have shaped the way they respond to every situation. And we're helping them, our students, view everyone positively, because that's one of our core goals as language teachers. So to view them with value. So that's mine. I'm gonna open up strategies for trauma-informed distance learning. And Natasha, just tell me where you'd like me to head with this.
Sure. Let's see. So if you could scroll to the bottom of the introduction, about there is fine. They talked about, with the little infographic, the 3 R's in trauma-informed teaching and they are kind of like a step ladder where you have your ability to regulate and find yourself emotionally calm and settled. And you need that to be able to then relate to others and feel socially and emotionally supported. And then you need that second step to be able to reason and engage meaningfully with content. So if you don't have 1 and 2, you can't really get up to 3. And then they talked a little bit more about activities you could do for regulate. For H3, I didn't get through all of them, but I started with regulate. I'm a yoga teacher, so all of this, I was like nodding my head. I do all this stuff in my yoga classes, like starting the lesson by gazing at the floor and taking 2 deep breaths. We do it in class where you like inhale and roll your shoulders up and then exhale and roll your shoulders down. And I think the kids would respond well to that. Or similar to, Nicole, I think one of yours said, name something in the environment that makes you feel calm, happy, or relaxed, and explain why. I teach Spanish 1, so I think that they could at least like name something and say like, me siento feliz or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then moving down just a bit, the consistency and structures, creating calendars, meeting at the same times and using the same platforms regularly, having a regular time for parents and students to reach out to you. The next section for regulate was about creating like stretch breaks or using what are they called, fidgets, or even a weighted blanket or a spinny chair or something for kids who need different types of movement. And that's just about as far as I got.
This is a pretty rich document.
There's a lot to read.
Yeah. And do you actually teach or use, without necessarily telling them, even if you are, that some of your mindfulness and yoga techniques in your classes?
You know what? I haven't yet. I'm a pretty new yoga teacher. I was certified right before COVID started, and I was at San Juan High School, and so I really wanted to bring it in. Yeah, we met there, and I kind of didn't get around to it. And now
I was just curious.
I don't see my kids with the camera on, and so it makes it a little hard.
And what's funny is I don't know if I would do, especially not being able to be in the class too, so that they don't hurt themselves, but I wouldn't necessarily do the physical poses, but I think there are some breathing and kind of mindfulness techniques that I'm wondering.
Yeah, I would not launch into doing physical postures at all, but I think that some of the mindfulness could be really, really helpful.
Yeah. And so your students primarily leave their cameras off?
They mostly do, yeah.
Yeah. If you ask them to turn the mic on or whatever, will they speak?
Oh yeah, of course.
Good. Yeah, but they're there, and that's a way of reaching out and trying to connect, and you're like, yeah, okay. And then Lisa, your students being in sign language, you really, really need their cameras on.
Yeah, there are times that I allow them to have them off.
Sure.
Especially, when everything gets glitchy and we're like, okay, everybody, cameras off in this moment. That's fine. I can't even see you. We're all watching this video together.
Yeah.
But they're actually really good. And I kind of scared them in the beginning to make sure, because we can't require cameras on.
Right.
But of course, my thing was like, okay, well, if you're not feeling comfortable with having your cameras on, maybe we should talk. Maybe we'll talk to your counselor as well. And if like you don't have video capabilities at all, like this class just isn't going to work for you because you can't do the assignments.
Yeah.
And so, the first 2 weeks were just heavy emphasis on like, if you like absolutely cannot access video, unfortunately,
we need to work something out.
Like we can't be in this class, or we need to find a solution. And I need to be able to see you. And so now they're all really good. If I'm like, okay, camera's on, like they'll send me a chat like, oh, my camera's not working today. And I actually get to see most of my students like every single day, which is good.
That's awesome. Good. So as I said earlier, you have these resources, and I remember this one was pretty robust. You have these resources available to you to share, to look at, to ignore, whatever works for you and you think might be helpful to your students. And the thing I would recommend with this particular document is like scanning for a specific need that you have, like jumping up to the top and thinking about if there's something that's causing you stress because of a behavior you're noticing or something that's happening in class. And you're wondering if there's something that could be done on the social emotional side in order to have a positive improvement, then kind of trying to narrow down where is it that the student is operating from. Are they stuck, as Natasha said, are they here? And as a result, they can't get to number 2. And that's why we're seeing all these behaviors where they're not connecting appropriately. They're making really bad choices about what they do socially in our collaborative spaces. So I need to work on this regulation area. So that's the only part of the document I'm going to look at right now. You know what I mean? Because something like this, you have a lot going on and you probably aren't necessarily looking for a 15-page nighttime reading. But I mean, you might be. So what I want to do now is we're going to try to connect this back specifically to world languages. So a couple of things here. Remember that since you have the slide deck, if you want to, you can jump back into any of the documents, not just the one you looked at, if there's something you need to see again or that you want to take a quick look at. And then we'll hop over also, excuse me, to this Jamboard, which I'm going to put in the chat for you so that I know you have the slide deck probably open as well, but just in case, whichever way ends up being easier for you. And you can do text or just sticky notes. I see Lisa's already there. Kaboom, there you go. So the goal here is to think about what we've been talking about so far in terms of what social emotional health and wellness means, what it is, right? And then coming up with or brainstorming some ways that could represent itself in the modes of communication. So the interpretive mode being where students are interpreting authentic texts from the target language, demonstrating their ability to not just understand at a word level, but to get deeper, and as they progress in their language skills, to begin to see the influence of the cultural perspectives in terms of why the text is the way it is, why it's communicated that way, why it's structured that way, and so on. Interpersonal is spontaneous, unrehearsed, unprepared, two-way communication, often in speaking or signing, but it can also be writing. Most commonly, that's in the format of texts where we don't really edit or make our texts better. We just type them and fire them off, and then we see all the typos. So that's interpersonal. So what opportunities are there within what we saw from SEL to work within our target languages, but do prompts like the one that was posted here, asking how a partner is doing and responding. That's a big part of our students' ability to do that second tier of when we were looking at regulate, relate, and I forgot the third already, the relate part of it, right? And we can help build that with the activities we do with our learners. And then presentational mode of communication is the one that is rehearsed, refined, polished, edited before. So you write or you sign or you speak, intending to do that for an audience that doesn't have the chance to immediately talk to you and get clarification. They're going to take your content and they're going to listen to it, or they're going to watch it, or they're going to read it. And they will respond internally however they respond, because they decide with their interpretive skills for themselves what they think it is that you're trying to communicate. So I'll give us several minutes here to dive back into the documents if we need to, and start brainstorming some ideas. If Natasha, have you used a Jamboard before?
No, I haven't, but I think I can.
It's pretty, right. On the left, basically you have three. You can try to freehand write with the pen tool. I don't know that you'll like that very much, but you could. You can click on the T for text tool and just put a text box anywhere. Or if you prefer colored sticky notes, right below the white arrow that's in the black circle, there's actually a little sticky note icon, and you can change the color of the sticky note, and you can put sticky notes in the different areas as well.
Kid that gave me a thumbs down. It's like, why? And he's like, oh, I'm just having mental health issues, but that's all my fault.
Oh no.
Like, I know, right? And I was like, wait. Nope, we're gonna pause the ASL right now. This isn't your fault.
No.
We're in the middle of a pandemic. Like, we are all having mental health issues here. And it was so nice because a ton of my students were like, yes, they were over there like signing, yes. And so it was really good.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, for him to feel connected. Like, imagine the student thinking that they were the only ones struggling with this situation, because people come off on their social media feeds and so on as if, hey, I'm rocking this situation. I mean, I don't like it, but here I am, right? And so a lot of people end up thinking that they're the only ones who are like, why am I upset? Why am I depressed? Why am I bummed? Why am I angry? Like, it's not like something bad has happened to me. I'm at home. Why am I angry all the time? You know, so that's really, it's really nice to see how your students responded.
Yeah, it was really great to like have, I think that students see is like, not alone in this. And so many kids just feel like, yes, yes, thank goodness we are all feeling this way. Perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I'm sorry for the student, but the response was really helpful. I like this. I pulled it all down just to one board when I saw how small our group would be. If we'd had a bigger group, I would have put each mode on its own frame, but I'd love for both of you, and I'll do it as well, to share one or two of the things you individually put and just elaborate a little bit on what you think that might look like in your classes for your learners.
Lisa, you can go first.
Okay, cool. I have no problem with that. So one of the things we were talking about when we were doing the readings and sharing out was, connecting students to the now. So look around the room. I've been doing scavenger hunts, and it's really nice because we were practicing spelling. So I could spell random items, and my students would go and run around their house and try to find these things. Or they would pull up a picture on their phone. So I would, pick things that all students have, like find me a fork. And so it was a lot of fun because I had to understand what I was signing, but then they would run off and all show up with various forks.
Yeah.
And the students kind of we were still in the target language, but it was really fun and funny for them. And, like one student was piling all the stuff as she collected like on her too. And so then like kids are watching that, and she has like a towel wrapped around her head and like a fork sticking out and like holding a leaf. And so it allowed kids to have a chance to just kind of like breathe, not really be worried about anything that's going on around them, and just like have fun with what we were doing. So that was a really good interpretive thing. And obviously once they start learning things, like we're learning book and stuff right now, they can go and I could sign book and they can go grab that. Or, I'd be like, get your pets, and they would run, and they got so excited just to show off their pets.
Yes.
Obviously, yeah, they love that. Or anytime you ask for a family member, they're just like, oh my God, yes, let me show you everybody who's home now. So it's a lot of fun. And then I have let's go presentational, providing choice and creative outlets for assignments. So
I like that.
Giving them a space to kind of express themselves in a way that really fits them. My ASL 3s are creating travel blogs right now as we're learning country and travel signs. And one student's like, oh, I want to make this like one of those commercials where you see like the word pop up that's like adventure. And then I signed something about adventure, explore. And then and she was like getting so excited because she got to kind of be creative and make it fun in her own thing. And the assignment was just very kind of open to allowing students to express themselves in a way that made them happy. And yeah, those are my two.
I love that. Thank you. Natasha, do you want to share one or two of yours?
Sure. This week, we had sort of an interlude between two units. And so I gave them, this is something I learned in yoga teacher training, just a list of feelings and emotions when your needs are being met and when your needs are not being met. So rather than framing it as like, and that I put in English, but rather than framing it as positive and negative emotions, it kind of, it's empowering to feel, oh, my needs aren't being met, and how could I potentially meet them? And so then they would just go through, and they can, rather than, you always ask like, how are you doing? And it's like, I'm fine, thank you, estoy bien. And so I wanted to give them the language to say, I'm a little stressed, or I'm worried, or I'm anxious, or, I feel strong or confident. So it was a really simple assignment to give them a word bank of emotional vocabulary. And I plan on kind of bringing that in regularly as a little check for understanding. And then I've been using breakout rooms quite a bit. I was really breaking my back to try to make these pear decks and all these interactive assignments. And at one point I realized how happy they were to just be in breakout rooms and with a list of questions and chatting and
Right.
spelling words together and, you
Yeah.
know, reciting numbers. And it also takes a lot of stress off of me.
It's awesome. I had one of my best friends is a French teacher in Natomas High School, and she just emailed me today, and she's had a really, really rough go at her school, and there's a lot happening over there. But she got an email from one of her students, and then I think maybe both of them, and it basically, what it came down to is they were thanking her for putting them in breakout rooms because they've become friends. And they've been in the breakout rooms and they were there. They've helped each other with assignments, and they thanked her for like introducing them and like getting them together and so that they could be friends. It's just like the breakout rooms are important. And there can be risks there. And each teacher has to approach that the way they feel most comfortable. I know for me, I would have done the breakout rooms and chosen to then address problems with the student and potentially counselors, family, and administration if necessary. But they're so important in getting students to have an opportunity to connect with each other. And as we look at eventually returning to some kind of in-person instruction eventually, and hopefully sometime within this school year, the fact that the students have had these opportunities to get together, talk with each other, get to know each other, have fun together, and they're starting to probably form their little inside jokes now in the breakout rooms with the tasks that they do. That's going to make the return to school even more joyous, where like they're going to see each other in person. And I think they're going to be really looking forward to doing that, even more so than they normally would at just the start of school when they don't yet know everybody who's in their classes. I think the work that teachers are doing to make sure that students connect to each other and feel like a community, even though they're all in separate places, is going to be very, very important. Can you tell me quickly, Natasha, about using art?
Yeah, I teach Spanish 1 and Spanish 2. So in my Spanish 2 class, I've got a really small group, and I have time to really look at all of the artwork that they're creating. So we used, what is it called? Make believe comics.
Yeah.
And so they created a comic strip. I made a comic strip, and then they had to respond to how they think the characters in my comic book would have responded to each other. So that was successful. And then they did a brochure, a really cool assignment on Canva. It was my first time using Canva in the classroom, and they made like a 4 seasons of things to do in Sacramento on Canva. And I was like, these are so good.
I know. Again, it's like what Lisa was saying. They just want a chance to express themselves and who they are.
There were like activities I didn't even know about in Sacramento, and the graphic design was really good. And I was like, someone needs to pay these kids. Yeah, and some of them really have artistic talent, and so I think it's important to give them the opportunity to share.
Thank you. So I think Lisa and I had both put like grounding activities. I was just very general, and we had talked about how some of those activities to get students in the moment, it might be presentational. They might just be sharing out and there's no response, but it depends. Like Lisa does it in a way that's also very interpretive. And so even interpersonal, depending on how you structure it, it could be any of those. And then there was kind of a theme running through the ones I kept coming up with, because I think I was going back often to that sense of developing empathy and also at the same time as developing empathy and better understanding others and why and how they're responding the way they do, knowing that over time that can help the student themselves regulate their own responses and understand when they're starting to feel the stress or the anger or the fear or the whatever. And so I kept having themes running through where it was with the authentic texts that they encounter, whether those texts are songs, short poems, or longer poems, fictional texts, current events. There are lots of opportunities to use the events and the characters or people involved in them to explore social emotional health. So you'll see that like coming across in the ones I kept putting. So that's kind of where I was at. Like they might find and discuss the emotions, like find evidence of the emotions of characters in a fictional text that they read or viewed or listened to. and how you know how they felt, like, well, how did you know that? Why did they, what drove them to feel that way? Or it could be, there's a thing that's happening in this particular story or current event. Stop it at a critical point before it continues, before it gets to that last piece. And partners can work in breakout rooms orally and spontaneously to discuss how they think the character should respond and why, and then find out what really happens. And they can then discuss that. And then they could also write or record a response to someone impacted by a current event in fiction, or a character in a piece of fiction or a song. They could actually choose to support that person by, you know, sending them a message that they think would be helpful for that person. So those were my ideas, but they all kind of were coming from the same place, but across the 3 different modes. So the ideas, this actually comes from another document that I was working on at the beginning of the year, but you brought it all up too, like say hello, use their names, have no touch greetings that you can actually see for when they do have their cameras on. If you want, do meme check-ins. So I gave you a link to several, but you could create your own. So this one is on the scale of Kat, how are you feeling today? Although the person who did the meme actually left out the word you. So that's nice. But
the students say number 9.
Yeah, I know, right? Don't use that one. So it's okay. It has a typo anyway. We really shouldn't use that one. So, but there's several of them, or in theory, a creative individual could potentially pull together one of their own. But that can be another way to help people express where they're at in a way that feels a lot safer and less vulnerable, because people find it difficult sometimes because they feel like they're exposing themselves in a way that feels very raw. So the interface also is important. It actually came up in one of the 3 documents. So setting up your interface so that it's welcoming and so that it's easy to navigate, so that, for example, they know what your office hours are, they know how to find basic information about your class, they know how you always list your assignments, and there's consistency and a sense of regularity that they can count on. And obviously you also want, to the greatest extent possible, to be culturally responsive as well. So in my case, I taught French, and it's not just about France. We want to include the African countries that speak French. We want to include Canada. We want to include the departments overseas that are in both the not Mediterranean, sorry, and the Caribbean, and also in the South Pacific, for example. And wrapping up, I wanted to leave you with a few ideas. You might remember back on August 11th, the whole district did some beginning work around an 8-point commitment to educational justice and equitable outcomes for all of our learners to break down racism, inequity, and other systemic barriers. And so I just left you with a few ideas pulled directly out of the commitments that are opportunities for us as world language teachers. I knew we wouldn't have a lot of time today to dive further. I wish we did. But I am going to be working with Ana Quiñones, who is a Spanish teacher at Encina, and she's actually one of our very accomplished educational equity Institute teachers. She presents on this topic now herself as well, after the work she's done with our district's equity team. And so her and I are meeting to design a more kind of ongoing collaborative opportunity to really dive into this, more ongoing. And we meet on Monday, so hopefully there'll be something soon. But in this case, I was pulling things specifically that resonated with what we've been talking about for social emotional health and well-being, and how that expresses itself in the kinds of actions we are committing to as a district for educational justice, if that makes any sense. Hopefully it does. And next steps, as I said, there'll be a course coming soon. So teaching world languages through the lens of social justice, because there is a deep connection between social emotional health and social justice. And then the equity department just announced a new professional learning opportunity, if this is something that's of interest to you, integrating the social justice standards into classrooms that not ELA and social science, which are the main ones where you find it. One of them conflicts with our world language monthly meeting, or no, it's my IT, maybe it doesn't conflict. One of them is next Tuesday, the 29th, but they have other dates available. So if you click the link, you can check out any of those 2-hour sessions if that is something that's of interest to you. With that, are there any questions or anything you'd like me to find or expand on or look for resources for to better support you for social emotional learning in world language classes?
I think I'm gonna be part of the Social Justice Institute this year. So I was already at one training, and then it really kicks off in like 2 weeks.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see more of that stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for doing that.
I'm just so glad our district is, you know,
yeah,
such a great district. I mean, I just read an article about a woman who can't have rainbow flags in her classroom anymore in Nevada.
Yeah.
And yeah, the district I was at before, it was a district that was very similar to that and would probably say, no, I don't think we should allow rainbow flags anymore. So I'm happy I'm here.
Yes, exactly. And it's not always easy. This isn't easy work. We don't commit to social justice issues because they are easy. It is true that not 100% of our families are not in favor of our commitment, and we really have made a commitment. So it's difficult conversations sometimes, and difficult situations sometimes, but I think we all know that we are doing the right work. And so we will keep working through that and get better and better at having those conversations when they need to happen. Yeah. Well, thank you. And feel free to reach out anytime. You both know how to reach me. So if something comes to you or occurs to you that would have been a helpful resource for this, as I said, this is a fairly new, there isn't tons of work on social emotional learning in world languages. So if something comes to you that would have been helpful, let me know. I don't think this is the only time I'll try to dive into this topic. So I foresee some additional work in this area coming up anyway. And if there's anything else I can do to support you, just let me know. That is my role and I love it.